All right, I think we'll get started. Just a couple of brief words. I'm Kurt Shamrock. I'm the Executive Director of Wausau Metro Strong. It's a volunteer group. I work at Greenheck in the finance group for my full-time job. Just a couple of quick words. First off, what is Wausau Metro Strong? Wausau Metro Strong is a volunteer group that was formed out of the events that happened 6 years ago this month in our community. In response to that, trying to say, what are the things we can do to make this a better, safer environment for everybody? And so that entails education like today's events, education that we try and put out via the website and such, but really a facilitator of information out to the community. So we're composed of a group that involves people from a cross-section of the community, leaders from social groups, volunteer groups, business, education, government, and of course law enforcement. So that's a little bit about us. You didn't come here to hear me speak, though, so I'm going to wrap up here and turn it over to Chad to start the content. The other thing I want to do before we do that, though, is say a couple of quick thank yous. We're a volunteer group that, everyone has all these other jobs and, all these other commitments. We could not have done this today without the help of the Chamber of Commerce. So, Brian and Maddie, thank you very much for all the work you guys did in putting this together today. Thank you to MTC for providing the resources here for us and the facilities. And then Northcentral, the Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin is a key contributor and funder of Wausau Metro Strong and funds events like this. So I want to thank them. And then, of course, our partners in law enforcement who have a lot going on, who are taking their time out today to try and provide this training. So thank you all very much.
Can you all hear me if I go without the mic for a little bit? My name is Chad Billup. I'm the sheriff at the Marathon County Sheriff's Office. And I want to thank all of you for being here today and echo Kurt's appreciation as well to the Chamber, North Central Technical College, and everyone else that helped bring this together and make it happen. The reason that we're here today is we want to provide information to all of you about how to make your workplace safer. In addition to that, we know that some of you in here may be part of a faith-based community. Maybe you're actually a church or a director at a church, a pastor, or that you have a tight connection to your church. So what I want to tell you is that in June 22nd from 8 until noon, we're actually going to have a special program just for the faith-based community where we're going to have the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Department of Homeland Security, Wisconsin Emergency Management, and our office all meeting with every church. We'd like every church in the county represented. There's 130 of them, so that we can talk about how to protect places of worship and then let them know about some grant opportunities that are available in order to make that happen. Because we know that oftentimes funding can be difficult. As far as your businesses are concerned, there are opportunities to work with Homeland Security and Wisconsin Emergency Management. And our emergency management director here, his name is Phil Rentmeester in Marathon County, in order to have assessments done and potentially some opportunities for resources in order to help you secure your business or come up with policies, protocols, plans in the event you just don't have anything in place. The one thing I think you're going to hear today from the presenters is that the biggest thing you can do when you leave here is if you don't have a plan, develop one. Know what your rules or what your roles and responsibilities are as an employer when it comes to termination. What happens if an employee comes to you with a personal concern and they're going to bring that concern from home to work? What will you be doing and how do you put that in action? The one thing we're going to offer you as a business is that we can come in and help you do an assessment of your business, or we can lean on Homeland Security, who will also do that. Those assessments are free of charge. We do them as a service to you. Additionally, our partners at the Wausau Police Department and Everest Metro Police Department do those as well, so that if we had to, we can reach out and make sure that they're engaged, especially if your business is in the jurisdiction that they serve. So that is, in a nutshell, what we're trying to present to you today. And then our presenters, Deputy Matt Bell, with the Marathon County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant William Stewart, who goes by Will, you hear us call him Will Stewart, are here to share the information with you. At the end of their presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about how we get communication out to you, how you can be notified in an emergency, And this is something that we partnered with Wausau Metro Strong on following the events of August 22nd, 2017, and how we can notify our community of present dangers that are there and some of the other resources. Chief Deputy Bill Milhausen from our office is here, and he will help share with you what our Everbridge or Marathon County alerts are all about. So with that, I'll turn it over to Deputy Matthews. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff. And Kurt, volume good on us still, guys? Okay. Before I get going, I'm super laid back. If you guys have any questions at all, yell at me, raise a hand, whatever you need. We'll answer whatever we can during the presentation. Will and I have been doing it long enough that we try to touch on most of the questions that we've had in the past, so hopefully we get everything answered for you guys. The only thing that we're not going to discuss is gun control, who should and should not have firearms for protection and stuff like that. We're representing the sheriff in the office, and I'm not going to speak for him on those things, so just out front with you guys on that, all right? We're going to go through a short video here to start, coming from ALERT, which is a nationally backed program, Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training, who is working off of the motto of ADD, or Avoid, Deny, Defend. Anybody in the room heard of anything different when it comes to active shooter response than Avoid, Deny, Defend?
Run, hide, fight.
Run, hide, fight? That's one of the more common ones that comes up, right? Same concept, just different verbiage in there, right? So when you're watching the video, try to put yourself in your place of business or wherever you are throughout the day and think about where your office is, where you end up in hallways, where you're going to traverse, and really think about the concepts that they go through with Avoid, Deny, Defend, so you can try to get a mental rep on how you would respond in your business or wherever you're at throughout your day-to-day.
There's a gunman inside the store. We need help now.
Do anything last weekend? It was very nice, wasn't it?
Right about is the new system enhancement. What's going to be the solution by the time we?
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Actually think he's got an old, well, he's got a truck. I don't know if your daughter would be interested. Now, she figured out what college she wants to go to?
We need help. There's a gunman inside the store. He's shooting the place up. We need help now.
Issues that we found. Okay, Emily, see what that is. See what's going on. Just let us know what you.
Always send somebody else, right?
There's a man with a gun. He's right there. It's the wall. Lights. Lock it.
By county. There you go. You're safe for that.
There's a guy with a gun shooting. Look.
James, we don't have
No, look.
Run! 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 To the right! To the right! To the loading dock! Come on, this way, this way, this way! Oh, no, come in! In here, in here! The gunman's coming. What are we gonna do? We're gonna have to defend ourselves.
I can't do this.
You're gonna see your daughter tonight, okay? We are all going to go home tonight, all right? We have a right to defend ourselves. Get the gun! Get the gun! Hey! Hold him down, hold him down!
Gosh, I'm just so glad you're okay.
Yes, we're all gonna go home. Everybody's going home. Yeah.
If you ever have the misfortune to be in an active shooter event, you deserve to survive. In our research, we have found that the actions that potential victims take during these events are critical to their survival. We have identified 3 options that have proven effective in many events. These are: avoid the attacker, deny the attacker access to your area, defend yourself. It is a personal decision, but you have a right to do so. Avoiding the attacker starts with being aware of your surroundings at all times and knowing what is going on around you. If you see or hear something that looks suspicious, take action. For example, the stalker took immediate and effective action to protect himself when he observed the shooter pulling out weapons from the bag. Others, however, hesitated, and this hesitation can cost them valuable time that they could have used to get away from the threat. If you hear something that is, or could be, gunfire, start trying to get away from it as soon as possible. Gunfire has a distinctive sound. Inside of buildings, the sound can be muffled or distorted. A single loud bang could be a person dropping something, or even thunder. But repeated loud bangs are much more likely to be gunfire. Additionally, look at the reaction of others. Are they startled or scared? Are they running? What are they saying? Any one of these events individually may create denial, but when put together, should create a heightened awareness and stimulate an immediate response. It is important that you know how to get out. The situation will be chaotic and rapidly changing. In general, you will want to go to the nearest exit. But you must also understand that the closest exit may not be accessible or safe to use. If this is the case, go to a different exit. While avoiding the threat, consider the uses of cover and concealment. Cover offers protection from gunfire, while concealment minimizes your exposure to the attacker. Try to keep objects between you and the attacker. If you can't avoid the attacker, sometimes the best option will be to deny the attacker access to your location. In many locations, this can be accomplished by closing and locking a door, such as they did in the meeting room. Locking the door has proven effective in many attacks. If the door does not have a lock, you can place heavy objects in front of it. Remember, barricades work best if the door opens toward you. If it doesn't, use things that are readily available, such as straps, belts, or objects that can be used to block or secure the door to make it difficult for the attacker to enter the room. This may at least slow the attacker down and give you time to identify alternate means of escape, such as adjoining rooms or windows. When attempting to deny access to your location, you want to make it appear that there is no one in your area. Lock doors, turn off the lights, silence your phones, and get out of sight. Your attempt to deny the attacker access to your location might fail.
The gunman's coming. What are we going to do? We're going to have to defend ourselves.
Have a backup plan about what you will do. In many cases, this may be to defend yourself. You need to be in a place where you can act if the attacker comes into your location. In most rooms, you will line up against the same wall that the door is on, near the door so you can react, but not directly in front of it. If you are unable to avoid or deny, your best option may be to defend yourself by using whatever is available. In a situation where someone is attempting to kill you, you have the legal right to defend yourself. Attack weak spots such as eyes, throat, and groin. Fight to the best of your ability and do not quit until the attacker is stopped. This is what the workers in the warehouse did when they were unable to avoid the attacker and felt their lives were in immediate danger. Whatever option you choose, call 911 as soon as you are in a safe location. Provide any information that you know. The operator will ask you a lot of questions. If you don't know the answer, don't guess. Just say you don't know and only state the facts.
I'm not sure. There's 3 of us in the room. We're on the... There's a guy with a gun. He's shooting.
This will be a complex situation, and we can't tell you what you should do in every case. What we can do is provide you with information about the options that we have found to be most effective for surviving these attacks. The ultimate choice is yours. What you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Law enforcement will be entering a chaotic scene with limited information. Their first priority will be to stop the threat to your safety. The police may not know where or who the threat is. Listen and comply with their commands immediately.
Put it down, sir. Put it down. Both of you on the ground.
Police are trained to look at people's hands to assess threats. Do not have anything in your hands that could be perceived as a weapon, such as a cell phone.
Show me your hands, sir. Show me your hands. Move to us. Everybody, keep your hands up, please. Walk out the door.
If told to do so, stay where you are and do not make sudden movements. Again, follow all commands. Remember, what you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Remember, ADD. You can survive.
Anybody have any questions on the content in there? Some stuff that you've heard before? Yeah. So our goal is to educate you guys and give you options so that you have a higher likelihood of success and survival if something like this were to happen to you. Okay? There's no one perfect option every single time, which is why they give you choices to go through your Rolodex of, I'm in this situation right now, this is my best option, I'm going to choose that. That can change throughout the incident to where you then mold into the next option for you. So our goals today are to familiarize you guys with the historical overview of active emergency response situations, the profile of an assaultive or violent intruder procedures, facility priorities during an intruder situation, law enforcement priorities during an intruder situation, and then also local considerations. If you can't read it, it says, welcome to It Could Never Happen Here, USA, a suburb of Seattle, Honolulu, Fort Worth, Los Angeles, Atlanta, etc. Kurt touched on how Wausau Metro Strong was formed and the events that kind of led to that. That's a direct situation that happened in our community on March 22nd, 2017. Same concept, right? We're smaller than those cities that are listed in there, but it doesn't have to be a huge populace for something terrible to happen in our community. And that's not the only one that we've had that would fall into the category of an active shooter in our area. Okay, so they're happening almost daily, and they're happening everywhere. So education and preparedness is the best that we can do for ourselves. Here's a snapshot of numbers for active shooter events through 2000 to 2013. These numbers are a little old off of that. We will get to more fresh numbers as we go here. But in those 13 years, there were 160 incidents, an average of 11.4 per year, with casualties, and they're putting actual deaths and wounded together with 1,043, and then they're separated 486 deaths and 557 wounded. Those numbers will get worse as time goes on, and we'll show you guys that. Recent pictures of some of the bigger events that we've had, ones that hit the news pretty hard, and we're up for a while. We got the tragedy in Vegas. Everybody know what the Vegas one was? Okay, at an outdoor concert. And then we have Robb Elementary, Uvalde. That was one that's been in the media, still in the media for a lengthy period of time. And then Parkland, Florida, in the bottom right, the picture of the suspect in the middle there. We'll get into some of the historical overview and thought processes of people, how to prevent some of these things. I'm sure everybody's heard, see something, say something, right? Okay. This guy at one point in time had posted on one of his social medias, I want to be the best school shooter ever. At what time frame that comes out, I don't know, but is that something to where we as supervisors, leaders in the community can start to address, ask some questions, see if people are okay on that preventative end of things before it gets to this point, right? Taking care of people, caring about each other, seeing what we can change and influence before they get to this point. So a violent intruder is an individual actively engaged in or attempting to kill in a confined and populated area. In most cases, violent intruders use firearms, and there's no pattern or method to their selection of victims. Firearms are more easily concealed than some other weapons, and they just have a lot of bullets that can be put through them and magazines carried with them, right? So it's a resource that people are using. What else has been used more recently besides firearms in these active killer or mass casualty events? Vehicles, yeah, right. We got people, Waukesha had their Christmas or Thanksgiving parade, Christmas parade. New York just had pursuit with a U-Haul that was running citizens over for, I think, the better part of a half hour, 45 minutes, something like that, right? Not a huge gathering or target-rich environment of people, right? But same concept. So just to differentiate for you guys between what an active killer or a dynamic situation is, we also have a barricaded subject, which is a suspect is in a position of advantage, usually barricaded in a room or a building. That suspect is armed and has displayed violence. They may or may not be holding hostages. There's no indication that the suspect's activity is immediately causing death or serious bodily injury, and that event is not dynamic but static. So static, slowed down in one area compared to dynamic, which the active shooter moving throughout. If you picture, your business or a school searching for the next victims, those target-rich environments. Once they're done with the cafeteria, moving on to the computer labs or whatever, right? Those are dynamic situations that most of the active shooters start off with. They can fold into barricaded subjects, which then slows to that static environment. So what we know is that violent shooter incidents are spontaneous with little or no warning. Suspect's behavior is unpredictable. Incidents occur in a target-rich environment that we've been touching on. First responders have been outgunned and or didn't have the training to respond to these situations in the past. Unfortunately, in law enforcement, there are times where we are reactive to things we learn based off of what has happened, and then we prepare ourselves to combat those things in the future. I think we do a better job now than what we have in the past of trying to be prepared for those things before they happen so that we can succeed better for you guys and for us. The next one, if you guys see the picture and somebody knows, let me know what incident this was. Not you. Thank you, though.
Wasn't this LA, the bank robbery?
Yes. Yep. So 1997, LA bank robbery. Two guys with assault rifles, plenty of ammunition, dressed with body armor from head to toe, had a standoff in the street with law enforcement for a lengthy period of time. At this time, law enforcement had shotguns in their cars for weapons that would reach out to a distance to stop the threat most effectively. They had to go to, it was either a sporting goods store or a hunting store, and commandeer some or borrow some rifles to stop this threat, which was a reactive learning situation for us that we have to be at least at the level of the people that we're trying to stop, if not a level above them, so that we can be most effective in those situations. So we were outgunned in this situation, learned from it, and now we all have patrol rifles in our cars. Take that to the next step of, armor and things like that are movable vehicles. You see our SWAT vehicle out and about. There are situations that led to us needing that equipment to serve you guys better and protect us better when we're doing it. So here's some more current stats. I went back to 2000 with it still, so you get 7 more years on this one. We have 345 total now. So from 160, add 185 in 7 years compared to 160 in 13 years. So they're happening more frequently. And then it breaks down percentages of incident location. Who thinks schools, prior to looking at this, is a place that these were happening at the most? Honestly. Hands? Yeah. Any guesses as to why you think it would be schools that sticks in your mind as to where these happen the most?
They get the most media attention.
Okay, right. Probably tugs on your heartstrings more than the other stuff, right? Especially the little kids that have zero chance of defending themselves. They're relying on you guys and adults to take care of them if something happens, which is why we need to be educated and ready for these things. When in reality, we're looking at commerce, which used to be broken up into business and workplace. Now they're just smushed together with 46% of these incidents happening there. Education is only 17%. Open spaces is 15%. We're starting to see more of those. And then religion is something that surprised me when I first started doing these presentations, that it's as low as it is. That's something that we've fought over and killed each other over since the beginning of time, but it's just not as big as what I thought it was going to be. Not saying it's not an issue there, because it obviously is there on the board, but just for me, it was a shocker. So a graph with the victims, wounded and killed represented in there. The 2017 kind of throws off the rest of it. So when I added the new stuff, that went in there, threw the graph off a little bit, but 2008 used to have a spike that you could see in there. What happened in 2008 that may have led to some of these incidents going up in numbers?
Housing crisis. Financial crisis.
Right, economy, housing crisis, we took a hit, right? Some of our normal lives, things that we were used to, got affected for a lot of people. You start to pair some of the stuff we'll talk about with thoughts, depression, anxiety, those things, and now you lose your car, you lose your job, you lose your house, nobody stands up for you, your neighbor doesn't pitch in or help you, whatever, right? You start to feel alone. You paint a good picture for some of these people to have these events become realities for them, right? So they continue to incline. In 2017, what happened in 2017 to where that number is totally out of control compared to all the other years? Which event? We had a picture of it. Las Vegas, yeah. So adding the actual casualties with the wounded, there was almost 500 in that one event alone. But that was the perfect storm, right? You have your target-rich environment, and then you also have an elevated position shooting down into that crowd with nowhere to go, right? And I'm sure that there were probably some injuries and stuff from people being trampled and things of that nature besides just the gunfire from the individual, right? But it's that perfect situation for this active shooter, active killer to unfold. So potential indicators. We have family dynamics where traditions and beliefs might play a factor into some things. Patterns of behavior are something to where you as individuals and leaders at your facilities can really take a look at your people, know who they are, know when things are off, whether it's you directly or somebody else addressing them to try to make sure everything's okay. And if it's not, try to figure out how you can help them, right? Most of these individuals feel like they're totally alone. Nobody cares about them, so they don't care about anybody else, right? I'm going to hurt as many people as I can. If there's somebody that really cares about them, is it a chance that you might stop this from happening? Even 1% is worth it, right? Peer dynamics, peer treatment, bullying, whatever activities people are involved in now. Sir, in the plaid vest, what's your name?
Bob.
Bob, can I pick on you just for a little bit? Okay. All right. So I think everybody in the room is old enough to where we were born before social media hit, right? So if we got bullied on the playground, it was by a couple people. And you know that those couple people don't like you. At the end of your school day or your work day, you go home, those people, they can't bother you anymore, right? Now things are different. We have social media, tons of different apps that are out there. If somebody works with Bob and says at work one day, I can't believe Bob's wearing that. By the way, I think the vest is sweet. Sticks out to me in the room, but that's why you're getting it. I can't believe Bob is wearing that vest that looks like a couch from the 70s. And everything better to wear? What an idiot. Why would he wear that to work today? And then in your apps or your social media, you get likes, you get smiley faces, you get laughs. You even may have somebody jump in on Bob's hat. Right? And Bob can put up with that for a little bit, right? Strong person. But over time, nobody stands up for Bob. Nobody says, hey, I was just giving you a hard time. I actually really liked that. I was kind of jealous. Wish I had one. Can't afford one, but sorry I did that. Nobody says that. Everybody jumps on board. Even your friends, if they disagree, they probably don't stand up for you on social media. So now instead of your 2 or 3 people that bully you at work or on the playground that you can get away from, everybody is against you, and you get it all day long. So that's how things have totally changed in our world to where these people are finding themselves alone with all the contact they can have in the world, right? Through their fingertips, but they still feel alone. Hurt? Do we want to hurt other people? Yeah, because that's what we're doing, right? Okay, so we have to change how we operate, how we treat each other to stop these things from happening. Social dynamics, drugs. If you don't know, drugs are out of control, right? They've been getting worse. We have new drugs that are out there that totally change a person's mindset, perception of reality. It's dangerous stuff. What kind of crowd you're hanging out with, the entertainment that you have, a lot of discussion on first-person shooter video games, those things, right? Desensitization. I'm not a doctor or a specialist in that field, but could there be some truth to letting your 5-year-old start to play shooter video games, and they play up until the age of 15? None of that's reality. You get to kill people over and over again. Everybody comes back to life. you play another 10-minute game, so on and so forth, but then you bring it to your business or your school. Is it desensitizing? Possibly, right? So a conscious thing on your part as a parent or a coworker to know what people are doing and if that's healthy for them. A lot of it is difficult conversations. People don't like difficult conversations, but could it be worth having if it stops one of these from happening? Yes. And then characteristics and personality, depression thoughts of suicide, homicidal thoughts, those are going through the roof as well. We got to the point where we couldn't keep up with the mental health issues in our community. We were taking people left and right out of our county to try to find somewhere to house them because ours was full. So much so that we've now created a team to help deal with that. And that's their job, is to go out and try to help facilitate and help these people because the demand is so high for it. I always jump too soon to the next slide without asking the question. In the last 50 years, how many children have died in a school fire? I hear whispers. Be bold. 0. Yes. Any thoughts as to why?
Practice.
Drills. Yeah, how many got kids that are in school? Mine just started. I get to hear about the fire drills. Right? 4 times a year, I think, at most places. Okay? Fires are not as dynamic of an event as an active shooter, so that's not lost on me, right? But the focus is you need to educate and train your people so that when this happens, they know what to do. If they haven't physically been there before, they at least have a mental rep or preparation on what they're going to do when it does happen. It's got to be hard to control a school full of children when it's on fire, to get them out safely, right? If you put yourself in an active shooter event and you're not educated, you don't have policy and procedure or done drills at your facility, the likelihood of success in you surviving that go way down. Because when these things happen, your stress is going to go through the roof, and you aren't just going to magically come up with the best plan in the world. You're going to stop. Your brain's going to try to work. You're going to use valuable time trying to formulate your plan, and probably more time trying to execute on that plan. Well, the whole time, that person is gaining ground on you, and you could end up dead because you didn't put the time and effort into this. And that's why we're all here. We're trying to learn. We're trying to get ourselves to that point for the best success rate. Anybody got mandatory drills at their businesses for active shooter events? Raise a hand if you do.
We have materials, we don't have drills, but I mean,
Okay.
we have resources.
So actively working on it every year. Fantastic. And for those of you that don't, you're here, right? We're moving towards that. So awesome for coming to this and getting educated. It's the first step in bettering your odds. So thank you guys for coming. Like Sheriff said, we will work with you guys as much as you need us to get you set up with policy and procedure. We won't do it for you, but we'll be a resource to bounce off you, whether we think good, bad, how to get your facilities better set up to keep people from coming in and doing these types of things. And then we'll help you with drills with your policy and procedure to test them so that we can get you on the right track. Anybody got a crystal ball? The answer should be no, otherwise you won the Mega Millions or Powerball and you wouldn't be here probably. So it's difficult in predicting how a certain event will unfold. Personal opinions differ on issues like gun control. One of the biggest things that we hear when we go to facilities on how to prepare them for an active shooter incident or how to harden their facility is cost effectiveness for them. We can give suggestions on how to turn your facility into Fort Knox, but can you afford it? And is it something that is appealing to your customers or clients, right? A lot of places now have a ton of windows. Very inviting. You can see what's going on from the inside. You don't feel like you're trapped. Look at all the birds and squirrels. This is beautiful. But does it create a problem for bullets to go through windows if something like this happens? Yes. Okay? So it's options that we'll give you. You are the ones ultimately that have to work within your budget, what you want your facility to look like, and how we can handle those things and get you best set up for success with what you're working with. And then your level of commitment, long-term, sounds like you guys are doing stuff yearly, which is fantastic. Continue that for a long-term commitment. Awesome, because you got new people coming in and out all the time. So I'd much rather see that than something short-term of, we went to this training one time, let's hit it hard for a year, and then it goes on the back burner. We've just seen a snapshot for over the last 20 years. They're not going away. They're becoming more prevalent. Let's stay prepared for them. So community and police partnership, we want to work together to develop realistic safety plans in response to the various threats, and then conduct training sessions to test procedures. Our training that we can provide you guys, or our drills, can be as simple as we come in, we throw on the bright yellow traffic safety vests that you see us wearing out when there's crashes. We're the bad guy when we walk through your door. That starts the scenario or the drill. Whoever we see is injured or dead, and you guys should follow your policy and procedure, and then we'll get together afterwards, do a debrief, see what worked, what didn't work, if you guys want to mold some things, and then try it again, right? But we'll just continue to build. Or it can be as extravagant as one request that didn't go through because the business didn't follow all the way through with it, was they wanted us to come in with shotguns and blank rounds when they didn't have clients or people around, and give them what the full effect of guns going off inside of their building would be. That is not for everybody. I totally understand that. Okay? And it didn't go through with this business for whatever reason. They didn't tell me that, but it was a request that we've had in the past, right? I'm sure you have a myriad of issues with people being stressed out, feeling like they're put in that situation and don't want to be. So whatever drills you want to have run in your facilities, make sure that your people are comfortable with being there so you don't cause problems. In front of you, you guys all have a handout that is a critical incident response guide. This is not the copy it and use it. This has all the answers, right? This is a guide that a school district in our county came up with that works for them, okay? It's more along the lines of look at it, you see good things you want to pull from it, use it. You see things that don't apply to you, discard it. But we want to get you set up with an incident response guide so that when something happens, doesn't have to be an active shooter event, it can be anything, that you guys check all your boxes of what your roles and responsibilities are as leaders in your business and your community. So we're looking for developing sound plans and practices, what your facility's security measures are. When something happens and you get law enforcement response, it's nice to have the handful of people that are most familiar with your facility. Who's most familiar with facilities for you guys? Who do you have employed for you that takes care of your places when you're there and when you're not there? Maintenance. Yeah, right. They know every single room, every nook and cranny. They got keys to everything. So when something happens and we have to have access to the entire building to either stop a threat that's active or check to make sure there are no secondary issues to deal with, we need access to that, and these people are a wealth of knowledge. Yes, sir?
What's the average response time?
You're going to get a big variance on where people are located and where it happens. Okay, if it happens in the city of Wausau, you got people everywhere. If it's right in the center, you're probably going to get 2 minutes. If you're out in the county, it depends on where that vehicle is that's assigned to that area and patrolling. We will get there as soon as we can. Okay, it's obviously our priority. It's just it varies big time based off of where people are. I can't give you a solid. Just for your response time portion of things, I think this comes up in a slide, but I'll just touch on it now since it was asked. You're not going to get, like you see on TV and in the movies, you're not going to get the SWAT team or the bomb team response after commercial break, right? So we won't be there in 2 minutes as a SWAT team with all the tools, tactics, and equipment that we have to help you guys out, right? Your initial response is going to be patrol units that are out, detectives that are out working. Maybe if it's close to the courthouse, you might have court security guys that come busting out of there to respond and help you. And it's not just going to be the Marathon County Sheriff's Office either. Okay? You're going to get people from every jurisdiction that's close that can come and help solve whatever problem you guys are having. So that'll be your initial response. And then later come the things after pages go out and we can get set up to help you guys with those better pieces of equipment and personnel. So the golden question, after we went through avoid, deny, defend, what's the correct answer if something happens at your facility for an active shooter? Are you evacuating or are you locking down? One person, I heard it. It depends, right? We're educating you. We're giving you the options that we found best for success. You're not going to be in the same place all the time in the building. And the incidents aren't going to kick off at the same place all the time in the building, right? So if you create a policy and procedure that says you shall evacuate when these things happen, if you're 3 left turns and a couple cubicles away from an exit that's all down hallways, and you hear these things start to happen, or your emergency code goes off, and it says you shall evacuate, could you possibly be leading employees directly into the problem? Okay. So your policy and procedure should go through what your options are. Let the individual select what the best course of action is for them in that incident, based off of those options to give them the highest likelihood of success. Make sense?
One thing I would just mention on this, and hopefully you can hear me. 6 years ago, we had this incident happen over in the Everest area. I worked for Greenhack, and we had this exact situation. Do you let people go or do you lock down? As you talk about training and all these different steps, the thing I didn't realize before that happened is how many practical questions come up, right? Can you force people to stay? If it's cross shifts, how do you? If you have people coming in for another shift, how do you get out and communicate to them? So the training that you're talking about and figuring this stuff out ahead of time, the practical aspects of this are something you should give consideration to, because we had to decide it that day. And that's really not how you want to decide it. Like, who should make that call? Who do you get together? And how do you communicate? Is it email? Is it phone chain, or what have you?
Have you guys worked on that since? I bet you feel 100 times more comfortable if something similar or close to were to happen again, of how to at least tackle that situation.
We do, and we had people call us and say, hey, we heard that you had all these responses to it. Tell us what you did. And I said, I had to be honest and say, hey, we learned the hard way. We didn't do it the right way. There's a lot of things we would do differently, and there's still a lot of work to be done. Right? So we're better, but Derek is our EHS person. Right? You'd say there's still a lot of work to be done, right?
Consistent. There's a lot of work to do with consistency.
Sure.
That's the key for us. We've got so many locations and being consistent.
Yeah. So then for evacuation, if that's what you're choosing, if sheltering behind secure doors is not possible, evacuation may be necessary. Move away from sound of violent behaviors or gunfire to the nearest safe exit. After you exit, move away from the building. Do not stand in the parking lots or open areas like they had in the video, right? Hard to depict that everybody's okay unless you put it in the video of shaking hands and giving hugs and we're all fine, right? But for real life intents and purposes, get out of the building if you're evacuating. Don't make yourself an easy target by standing and waiting in another open area to where you can then be addressed by the threat again, right? Move away from it. If there's pieces of cover, things that stop bullets, put them in between you and the building as you move away from it and towards whatever gathering point you guys come to for a facility. And we'll touch on a gathering point as we go here. An example of a code notification, code whatever is activated during a situation in which an armed intruder or an individual suspected of being armed enters a facility, threatens or uses a firearm or weapon, and takes persons hostage. This will be something specific to your facility that is nothing close to anything else that you guys would have an alert for. Right? So it can't be misunderstood. And then all of a sudden you have mass panic and chaos, and you have responsive law enforcement coming from everywhere, and it turns out to be something that was totally different, right? We don't want to make that mistake. We also want it to be super clear so that when people hear it, they know exactly what's happening, and they put into play those preparations and education that they're getting so that they can survive. When you find yourselves in those situations, we got a bunch of different people in here that work on different businesses and settings. You're going to have employees that might be brand new, that don't know what the procedure is, what that overhead page notification means. They didn't go through, HR day training, whatever, to start, orientation. They didn't have that yet, right? So you might have to help them out. You'll have some of that herd mentality. Everybody's running like cattle to get away. If they're not smart enough to run with you, grab them. Hey, come with me. This is what's going on. Okay? Customers, same thing. In schools, students, they're aware of soft lockdown, hard lockdown. Could be different for them on the teacher trying to gather a class of 20 kids and deal with them. But that's going to be your choice on whether or not you want to spend time to grab employees and customers and try to save them as well as yourself, right? There are options that you guys are going to have to make a lot of choices in a short period of time to try to survive. An example of a notification. I would not get much more wordy than this. If you were the first person inside of the business that someone sees and that problem comes directly to your window, I would not expect you to give me a paragraph over the intercom as to what's happening, right? Something short and sweet. We know this is real. Protect yourself. And you should probably protect yourself first and then get this notification out as soon as you can. Because if you don't protect yourself and you're dead, you're not telling anybody else. They're going to be the people in the video that heard the loud bangs trying to figure out, was it a pallet falling on the floor or was it gunfire? If it's safe, gather people from a hall near your office and take them into your office. If you are locking down and barricading or denying access, move the public and staff away from the doors, pull shades or blinds on the windows and the doors if it applies. Take cover on the floor behind the counter desk wall, anything that you can use that might stop bullets. And then do not attempt to flee or evacuate unless that problem makes it directly into the room that you've chosen to barricade in. Right? If that problem comes in there, it's probably time to defend yourself. And that means fighting for your life. And then getting out of there. In the video, they talked about not calling 911 unless you had pertinent information. For us responding, we want stuff like how many, what they look like, what they're armed with, if they have hostages, stuff like that is pertinent information, right? And what they're armed with, we don't need if you're a gun nut. We don't need a Glock 17 with an extended magazine, right? Handgun works. Color if you want. Cool, right? We're going to the building, we're looking for this person wearing this, carrying this. Go in, yep, got him or her, perfect. Everybody's going to be busy on the phones. They're going to be taking a ton of 911 calls. Also, if you try to call with not pertinent information, our 911 system gets flooded after a certain number of calls. I don't know what the number is. After that, it will go to neighboring jurisdictions. Right? So if our 911 lines are used up, Lincoln County, Oneida County, Langley, they might get those calls and be like, hey, green hack on this street? I don't know what business you're talking about. Right? Don't call the switchboard if you're within the business. No one's probably going to be there. And if you're at the switchboard, Your priority is not answering phones anymore, right? It's surviving. We will suggest not to open the door for anyone. When we respond, we will either have keys from those resources, like custodial staff or maintenance. If we cannot, we have tools that will be able to gain access to the rooms that you are in. We don't want people to be tricked into open the door, it's the police, and it's the bad guy forcing somebody to say that or saying that themselves, or someone has Kurt at gunpoint and Kurt telling them, open the door, let me in, everything's fine out here. You open the door, it's Kurt with bad guy. Right? You've jeopardized everybody in the room to try to let Kurt in. That's a suggestion. But again, another choice that you guys have to make when you're there. Do you want to let people die in the hallway, or do you want to let them in? All tough stuff. If someone is injured or in serious need of medical treatment, we'll have you guys place a red placard under the door or in the window. And if everything is safe and okay in the room that you've barricaded in, you'll put a green placard under the door or in the window. And that should come after you guys get done barricading yourselves in there, right? Take care of denying access to you first, and then get these things put out there. And that notifies us when we're going through and clearing that there's a definite problem in this room with a red placard that we should stop at right now after the threat is stopped, to address this and help people in there. Green ones will be secondary for us. Okay? So key points: pull shades or close the blinds, turn off the lights, make it look like there's nobody in there. Don't release anyone except by the direction of law enforcement personnel. Don't follow the directions of the admin staff. And be prepared to stay in a lockdown status for a lengthy period of time. There's places that have like little snack bags or goodie bags for people that may have medical conditions that could worsen over a period of time. You have anybody with diabetes, depending on how severe it is, they'll have orange juice or candy or other things for those individuals if something were to happen in that room. Again, we will make our way to you. It just could take some time. So an example of the placards that we're talking about, and this isn't rocket science, so don't get too confused over it. It's just red and green cardstock, right? We put the X and the diagonal slash lines on there because at the courthouse, the tinting in the windows takes the color out, so we can't see the colors if it goes in the window. I'm sure a lot of you guys have some type of laminate tinted film in the windows at your businesses to the exterior that would make it difficult for us to see colors as well. Other considerations are sound issues. Everybody's got a cell phone, or two possibly nowadays. Take them off a ring, get them on vibrate at least. Even if we leave them on vibrate and we set them on this hard table, some of them got a pretty vicious vibrate to them, right? If someone tries a handle, the door is locked, but then here's a huge vibration inside there. Does that possibly tell them to spend more time trying to get into that room that there's people in there? Maybe. So I would limit the exposure to that by turning them off, putting them on Do Not Disturb, keeping them in your pocket, anything to limit that noise. People in the hallways, again, you have our recommendation, but what are you going to do? There are people that you work with every single day. Or if you're from schools, they're kids that you teach and mentor and coach every single day. Do your best to stay away from common and open areas because those are in nature where people gather, and those are our best target-rich environments that people are looking for. When do we open doors? Not for law enforcement. We will open the door. We will come to you. Trick question. Thank you for speaking up, though. That was the first answer that was like genuinely loud enough instead of the whisper. Pre-planned evacuation sites. So if you have this problem inside of your building and you are one of the individuals that evacuates, where are you going to? This should be something that you have designated in your policy procedure. You've communicated with the other business or whatever it is that you are going to, so they know what's happening when 60 employees from somewhere else show up. This is what's going on. Here's how we're going to help facilitate that when you guys come here. Question always comes up, do we want to tell people where we're going if something like this happens? What's to keep them from going to the next place? When we get an active killer event, our initial response will be to that scene. Once we have enough people to tackle what's going on at that scene, we will then start to send the next resources to gathering points to help with security there, keeping track of people. You guys are going to have to keep track of your employees, who was here today, who was sick today. I got 95% of the people here, I'm missing 5%, where are they at? Are they hurt inside the business? Did they get hurt on the way? Do we need to look for people on the way? Did they come in injured? Did they roll an ankle? Were they shot and now they ran to this point and they need medical attention here, right? So you guys will start to track those things. We will respond there. We will help with that. Okay, so we're going to have an incident command set up, monitoring and helping with both of those locations to try to work the best that we can, both of those problems at the same time. All right, time for a nice loud answer. What's a pro of attacking the aggressor? You find yourself in the defense portion of things right off the bat. Give me a positive of attacking the active killer.
They can't attack anyone else.
They can't attack anyone else. Okay.
You distract him.
You distract them. You buy some time.
With your adrenaline running, you're 3 times stronger than normal.
We got unverified science, but I don't have the numbers, and I'll take your word for it. Okay. Is it possible that you stop that threat? Disarm, slow down, anything, right? You give yourself a chance for survival if you fight back. You give others more time for survival, right? There are some good things to that. A personal decision you guys are going to have to make. Sometimes we go to these things and talk to people, and there's some individuals that say, hey, I can't do that. Okay. You know where you're at. Option 1 and 2. Prepare yourself. Be very serious about those things. You either need to avoid or deny access, like your life depends on it. Because you know if you get to option 3, you're SOL. Right? Negatives of attacking the aggressor.
He shoots you.
Obvious one.
He shoots you.
You get dead, right? There's a give and a take there for sure. When you are fighting for someone or for your life, the video said, do not fight fair. Okay? You can legally defend yourself when it comes to situations like this. You all have weapons on you today. Who's got some weapons with them? What do you got, sir?
Oh, that's a wrist. I got my elbow. I got my knee.
Okay.
Forehead.
Other hands? We got back there a pen? Yeah. Going out of style with the technology, but you got a pen. Do some stabbing. Right? Keys. Other things that we got in our offices?
Just really heavy water.
Mug. Yep. Okay. Even if we can't stop the attacker with something like a mug, is that something that if you chuck at somebody who's trying to shoot you, that has to take time to react to that? Naturally, they want to get out of the way of things that are thrown at them. Does that buy you some time? Probably, and I'm going to work with probably in those situations, right? And do whatever I can to try to survive. Room numbering is something that's critical for us in response and for you guys to know where you're at inside the building, right? So on both sides of the door, so that when law enforcement comes in, we know that you're in room A189. You're not going to know that you're in that room unless it's on the inside of the doorway as well. That's pertinent information for us. I have the person that's shooting people. We're in room 189. Perfect. We know where we're going. Also on the outside of the windows, if you guys have windows that correlate with those room numbers, sometimes we can fix problems better from outside of the building than we can from inside of the building, or it's faster for us to operate that way. Not super expensive, like mailbox things that you can replace address markers with. Fleet Farm sells them. They're, I think, under $0.25 a piece, probably like 10 cents, something like that last time I looked. So police priorities for violent intruder events. Priority number one for us is to stop the threat. That is the lives of those in proximity to the intruder, lives and safety of citizens in the area, safety of police officers, containment, and then after the event, investigation and return to normalcy. If an active shooter event happens at your facility and you are injured and the threat is still active, we are going to bypass you if there is stimulus going on so that we can stop that threat. So just realize that's what's happening. We care about you, okay? We're not walking past you just because we don't want to deal with treating you medically. We care about you, we're there for you, that's why we responded and why we're working. We have to stop that threat first so it doesn't happen to other people, and we will get back to you. It's uncomfortable for both halves. Community priorities for an active killer event: protect yourself and the lives of those around you, have a crisis management plan in place, implement a policy, notify law enforcement what that policy is so that we know what to expect, what you guys are doing, where your gathering points are, possibly a blueprint of your facility so that we can pull that up in Incident Command and start to check off buildings that we've cleared and we know exactly where we're at. And then provide follow-up counseling if applicable. You go through one of these events, you're going to need some help, some people to talk to, someone to lean on. It's going to be traumatic for everybody. Your normal won't be the same anymore. You're just going to have to find a new normal that's acceptable for you and lean on each other. Okay? You guys have programs, probably some EAP that will help with those things as well if you're comfortable reaching out with those. Additional resources, Department of Homeland Security has some good stuff. Federal Emergency Management Agency, NTOA is National Tactical Officers Association, and then there's also American Red Cross Ready Rating. That's the QR code that's up there. If you guys want to scan that, Will has some more info on it.
Yeah, so the American Red Cross Ready Rating, if you can go on there, you can sign your business up, take a questionnaire, kind of puts you in perspective of things maybe that you should be looking at, things that maybe you have right in your program already. And there's a ton of resources in there. I was poking around. They have the drills that we talked about. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's all right there. You print it off. It explains how to set up the drill, what your objectives should be, how we want to complete this, and just a ton of good information. Handouts, kind of similar stuff that we handed out today. You can adjust for your business, but there's a lot of good stuff on that site.
Perfect. The only thing that I would caution you is with seeing where we've come from and the numbers and how frequently these are happening is when you research this, do it in a positive educational mindset, not we're all screwed, this is happening all the time. It's going to happen where we work, and that's that, right? So educate. Probably don't search active shooter incidents and then the next setting, how to make a bomb. You might have people show up at your door that are 3-letter and have some questions for you, so be cautious on that end of things. And then one of the other questions that we've gotten a couple times recently is how people are notified if something like this were to happen in our county, and you want to be notified if you're close to something like this. And it's a new addition to the PowerPoint. And we got Chief Deputy Milhausen that came from the communications world, has a lot more knowledge than I do in that. And so that's Everbridge, and we have another QR code for that, and I'll let him talk on that a little bit so it's accurate.
We'll talk a little bit. He and Sheriff both mentioned Everbridge a little bit there. This all came in conjunction between the Sheriff's Office or local law enforcement and Wausau Metro Strong following the March incident in 2017. And what it is it's two different branches. So there's an emergency notification side, and that comes into play. Kind of like an Amber Alert that you get. It gets pushed to any device in that area. We can send that out from the communications center. And those are situations that are going to be used in extremely rare situations. An active shooter like we're talking about here today. It may be a natural disaster, something like that. We can draw any type of a shape around an affected area and push that notification to every device in there. The other side of it is a notification versus the alert. That's the two sides. The notification is this QR code. You guys can click on there or scan that, and it'll take you to a spot where you can sign up for notifications that we put out. The difference with notifications, it may be media releases, it may be weather-related events, closings, some things like that. So you can opt for what you want when you sign up. You can, once you get in there, it gives you the option to, and if you opt for everything now, you can go back into your account and you can, uncheck some of those if you're getting too many notifications. On the iPause or the alert side of it, the reason it's very, very rare is we don't want it to be one of those situations where the little boy who cried wolf. If you get one of these notifications like an Amber Alert, your phone goes off and it's an Amber Alert. Everybody's like, holy cow, my phone's making this really loud alert. What is it? And it doesn't happen very often. So when it does, it's the real deal. There's been a couple of things since we went live with this that we were asked after the fact as to why we didn't send one out. And I'll just preface that by telling you that if we're able, it takes us a while, about 5 to 8 minutes, it takes us to generate the message and get it pushed out and for the alert to come out. If I was to call right now and say, push one out, that's realistic. So there was a situation in Wausau a number of years ago, and in less than that amount of time, we had eyes on the suspect, and we had officers that were taking that individual down. We got somewhat criticized as to why we didn't put out an alert, because everybody heard about it afterwards and knew this tool was all over the news following the March 2017, and that was the reason. The event was over before we could have put the alert out. So there are situations like that, but we have use of the tool. One of the other opportunities to use it is with a plant that released some chemical gases, and the plume was going in a certain direction. We need to evacuate some people. We can use the notification or the alert side of it for that as well. So I would encourage you to at least check it out. It's totally free, and like I said, you can opt in, opt out for what you want. Everbridge is in communities all over the United States. So once you're in, if you end up traveling, there's actually a map on there, and you can actually see what notifications are in the area you're in, and things like that if you're signed up. So if you guys have any questions, I'm willing to answer questions. Otherwise,
Thanks, Chief. It's a lot better than I would have done that justice. So that is the end of the presentation. I know I went through a lot. It's a lot to cover in an hour, so at times I get a little speedy with things. But we are very passionate about being good at educating you guys and being involved with these things. They've happened too frequently in our area, and so it's our duty to be prepared for them and prepare you guys for them as well. So if you guys have any questions at all whatsoever, feel free to shout them out, and we'll answer them the best that we can. If you don't have any questions, it means that I did a perfect job up here today for the first time ever.
I just have a question on the evacuation point. Like, thinking through our location, like for fire, we go outside and it's like in a parking lot away from the building. But in this situation, you suggest we go to a different place of business and get out of the building? Like,
yes. So again, I wouldn't stand in open areas. Once you leave that problem area or that building, I would get away from open spaces, somewhere where you can at least have concealment. So the video talked about the difference between cover and concealment. If they can see you with a firearm, depending on how good they are, they can shoot you, right? So don't stand in the open areas. Grab a business that is a little distance away, but not so far away that you can't run to it, right? So something maybe in like the 400-meter quarter-mile range, right, that you can get to. It isn't going to take you 12 minutes to get there. And then make sure that that facility knows that they are your plan if something happens. So they know what's going on when everybody's flooding to their business and where they are going to then lock you down. Okay, because you want people to be able to get there as fast as they possibly can. I know that everybody's probably got different paces that they can run those distances at, right? But the goal is to get there as quick as we can and then start to deny access to that person if they start to work their way towards us. Good question.
When you say that we should notify police of our policies or where we would meet, how would we, or how should we go about doing that?
You can email myself or Lieutenant Stewart or the sheriff if you guys have a policy procedure. We have a shared O drive that goes out to everybody at the sheriff's office in the sworn area that we can access that. We'll see what your policy and procedure is, where your gathering points are. If you provide a blueprint, we can have that in there so that if something happens at your facility, we'll have those pulled up as soon as we can. And then we'll have all of that knowledge on how we can best help you in your specific situation. If you have any more on that, Sheriff?
And those maps and anything you give us, we also put into our, what we call our computer-aided dispatch, so that our dispatchers can actually pull it up live right inside the 911 center as things are unfolding. And then they can actually send information directly to the cars. If the car is driving there, obviously they can't be looking at that O drive. Dispatch can be doing that simultaneously. So when he puts it in O's, we've got it as a reference, review, that's one spot, but it is also in our 911 system so that dispatchers can be relaying that to us as we're going there.
Going once, going twice. Sir?
I guess, a two-part question.
Okay.
What would you say the percentage is of a business the shooter is an employee or an ex-employee of that business? I have a reason that I'm asking.
I don't know the answer, and I don't want to throw a guess out at you. I will say that just based off of that graph, they used to differentiate them between workplace, which is somebody that was employed there or had family members that were employed there. And I would have to go back to see what those numbers were to see which was higher between workplace and business. I just don't have that answer, and I don't want to guess and throw you in the wrong direction.
The reason I ask is we've been doing the training. We have about 1,000 employees. We've been doing the training for probably 5 years.
Okay.
And I'm kind of being challenged by the plant managers right now that if we do the full training and it turns out to be the employee that's the bad guy, we just gave him all of our secrets, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
So do you recommend training managers and supervisors in a different way than the employees?
First of all, good on you for 5 years of having and going through this stuff already. That's awesome. As far as all the employees knowing, if you look at it from the other angle of if you don't inform your employees, then everybody is in that same situation of no education, no mental reps, no idea what to do at their facility because we're not giving them the information. So everybody, when this happens, is trying to formulate that plan immediately on that spot. So they're behind. So I think you put everybody at risk or in a worse spot than you could by educating them. We can't stop everything from happening, but preparation and education is our best tool to have success for people throughout this. And I would want the same information going out to supervisors as well as employees. You don't know who's going to be where or who's going to be handling what. If you have supervisors that are gone for a day and you give them tasks and responsibilities that they're supposed to take care of, and only they know about it during these events, and it happens the day that they're gone, what do? You may set yourself up for failure in some of those situations by only informing some individuals at your business company on that end of things. Make sense?
This will sound a little harsh, but if you've got a large business, large employer. You have one employee who may be a potential problem that's going to come to one location and be a threat in that one location, but you've got 800 other employees that are all need to be considered in this decision. And that's why you're trying to educate everyone. If you watch the news, you ask about, what are the odds that this could happen at my business? I think if we turn on the news, we see the FedEx incident, right? It's hard to say, but what we know is that oftentimes at businesses, they're bringing their personal problems to work, or that problem follows them from home to work. So you're factoring all of that in, and that's why when you saw the graphic at the beginning, there's just more of those. So I would just, as they come back, say, we're not thinking about just your group. Right? Not just you all. It's all of us, and everyone needs to be prepared. I would just add that.
Good.
Yeah, thanks. I was
Bob?
gonna say, your manager or your shooter could be the, or your manager or your supervisor could be the shooter.
Definitely.
Making a judgment call on that. So.
Good point by the vest. Thank you for chiming in. Josh?
One more comment. By involving everybody, you also have that many more people that are looking out for potential problems. We saw on some of those slides that there's a lot of different dynamics that create this issue. There's a lot of different warning signs that people can see. So informing everybody, training everybody may help prevent the problem in the first place, and that obviously is our overall goal.
Thanks. Yes.
And actually kind of a segue, Josh. Consideration that people might not know about. There's studies that have shown about 70% of mass shooters have a history of domestic violence. So when you have someone on your employee who uses power and control and abuses their partners, this needs to be addressed as a problem because it leads to additional problems. So we experienced that the cause of our incident here was domestic violence. So don't lose sight of that.
Thank you. There was one more hand up over here somewhere.
I was just going to say that in response to that, we discussed that in my company too, and it's a fairly small company, but one thing that I do is when I have to do a termination, I'm the HR manager, when I have to do a termination, particularly if it's a volatile termination, I do make managers aware. Of course, you don't tell everybody, but I do make managers, leadership aware that, hey, this has happened. Just keep an extra eye out, make sure you're upping your security, and just so that they know to just keep an extra eye out. And that way, it doesn't avoid the problem, but it alerts people at the leadership level to kind of make sure that door is locked and make sure people are following safety protocol. Because you're right, everybody knows and you're giving your secrets away, but you have to. So just notify everyone when you have that termination or that thought in your head that something might go wrong.
Excellent preparation when you think you might have a problem with something and you have information to back that up to pull other people in and maybe not even do those things by yourself, have other people in the room. And that's part of, de-escalation or preventing escalation stuff that we deal with too. So good on you guys for recognizing those situations and taking steps to combat those. Yes, ma'am.
We also changed one of our policies that when there's an involuntary termination and they're escorted out, they notify our receptionist. We have a secured building, but people forget their badges from time to time, so the process is they have to go to the receptionist, go in through the front door, get buzzed in, and get a temporary badge for that day. So if the receptionist doesn't know that person has been terminated, they can come to the front and say, I forgot my badge. Oh, I know, you work here, come on in.
Yeah.
And then they're back in the building.
Another good point. See, we just had a new question started. There's all kinds of just open discussion now.
And then one last thing I just add here real quick is that if you are anticipating a termination or you expect it to go bad when you have that conversation, you can always call us. You can call your local law enforcement agency. Deputy Bigger and I were talking about that. Did you say we're just at one yesterday?
No, it was about a week ago.
So we go to those.
But the person was being terminated for making threats, and they also made some suicidal statements. And so our job was twofold there to check on those threats and see what the threat level was there, but also to make sure that person wasn't suicidal, and we can address that piece of it.
So if you need us, call us. If you're anticipating that problem, we'll be there.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for having us for this group here today and taking a good step towards educating yourself.
And just how about a quick